Today, we all got the new Zelda. This is ChillPoint.
Hey.
I mean, new to you.
This is the new one, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
You know what I love about that copy, actually? The back cover.
Oh.
Yeah. You see
Oh,
a difference
right.
between your back cover and our back cover?
Oh, yeah.
That ours
yeah.
has all the regulatory information on the back, and the one that Paul's holding has a picture.
Well, yeah, that's because it's from the
Special edition.
Special edition.
Yeah.
I didn't get the special edition.
This is very like, this is very like, this is what you would expect the cover of a Zelda game. It's sort
Yeah.
of this epic shot of Link and stuff, right?
Mhm.
And the backside is like, whoa, what the heck?
This tank
Like-
that is hunting him.
It's
I'll
like
tell
that,
you,
and it's like a creature that has never appeared in a Zelda game before.
Yeah, I tell you, that's going to be your feeling in the game when you first run across them too.
Oh boy, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm-
Yeah.
I bet he is a friend.
Absolutely, definitely your best friend. I mean, in the Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, you technically get a tiny one as a friend.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I
Little
can't
white
remember his
one.
name.
Yeah. He comes out of an egg, doesn't he?
Adorable
He looks
tiny
like an egg.
versions of giant monsters are the
Yeah.
best.
That's
Yeah.
how we deal with our trauma, is
Yeah.
we make smaller versions that are cuddly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the little Metroid.
Yes.
In Super Metroid.
That's right.
Yeah.
We'll give you a baby Metroid, not so you won't be scared.
Yeah, that's why I have an Octorok plushie.
Anyway,
So,
hey everybody, welcome to a very special not playing Zelda chill point. Heather and Beej are indeed here, despite what you may have heard in the checkpoint that went up yesterday.
yeah.
Well, I mean, Paul,
Sometimes we lie on checkpoint.
just because I say the thing I want to do doesn't mean I'm going to be unprofessional and not show up for work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't always do what you want.
Yeah, like for
know?
instance, I could only bring one of the 20 Zelda books I have
Yeah.
because they'd be too
See,
heavy.
Heather and Beej are here for you.
I didn't even. I should have brought my Zelda plushie. I have a custom-made Zelda plushie with the short hair. Oh, she's cute.
So we actually, funny thing about this, so,
Oh, hey, Seabat's friends.
hey, nice to
Hey,
see you.
Adam.
So we
Hello,
were
Adam's Gremlins.
we were at home, and I went downstairs to check the mailbox just before we walked out of the door because we're like, we better go. We leave through a different door than we have our mailbox at, and so I was like, oh, I should check the mailbox, and I go downstairs and I'm like, no, the mail hasn't come yet, and it's like 12:55 or whatever, and I come back upstairs and say to Heather, I'm like, it hasn't arrived yet, and she's like, that's fine. She's still packing stuff. I'm kind of putting my stuff together, and not like
Yeah.
60 seconds passed, and the doorbell rang, and I run to the intercom, and I say hello, and it's Canada Post being like, I'll leave your package downstairs. I'm like, how did I miss the guy
Yeah.
in 60 seconds?
So here's the thing. I know I probably could have gone to a store. I probably could have gotten it day of. I probably could have stood in line with way too many people last night. I was not going to do that and gotten it last night. I know I could have gotten a digital copy. I know all of these things.
Right.
I still pre-ordered, got it through the mail.
Yep.
And almost always, because we live on an island, that stuff shows up on Monday.
Yeah. But weirdly, Canada Post has been reasonably good sometimes, it seems, whenever stuff's like supposed to be
Oh, I
leaving.
I try not to buy from Amazon.
Yeah.
I don't. They're delivery drivers. They're
Yeah.
not a thing I like dealing
So you
with.
pre-ordered from Best Buy.
Because they use Canada Post.
And you saw the processing thing at it's being processed in Richmond
Yeah.
at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were like on the ball. They were like, "Oh, we're gonna process this all night. Get all the. We know there's hundreds of thousands of these in the mail, so we're gonna process everything all night." And somehow it made it to the island in the morning, and it was like, "It's out for delivery. Maybe we're gonna get it."
Yeah.
So,
Anyone who's worried that we're going to talk Zelda spoilers, we're not. None of us played
Yeah.
the game yet.
Yeah, we don't know any of the spoilers.
meanwhile,
And if you give me any spoilers, I will hunt you down and you will not be happy about it.
this copy, which is the one that we're gonna have, this is the Moonbase copy that I'm gonna play tomorrow because we didn't know if we were gonna get yours in time or not. James went out this morning to our local new and used game store, Epic Games and More, and just bought one. Just walked in at
I
9
think
in
they're
the
sold
morning.
out already.
Yeah, he walked in at 9 in the morning. He's like, "Can I get one?" They're like, "You bet." And so that's why it says $89.99 on the back, because that's what we pay for video games in Canada.
I couldn't bring all my Zelda things, chat. You can't ask for more Zelda.
Yep.
I have so much Zelda, and still not enough Zelda.
And you're going to be playing that tomorrow.
Yes, and I'm actually going to be playing it on this, which is the special edition Switch, which is mine, which Heather bought for me for my birthday, and it's not even my birthday yet. So
I wasn't gonna make you wait.
I'll be bringing this in tomorrow to play this game on it. It'll be a lot of fun.
I mean, if you were a child, I'd make you wait to learn a lesson, but you're not. You're an adult, so I didn't make you make.
I only need to learn a lesson if I did something bad in relation to it, right? That's how it works. You have to tie the lesson to the thing.
No, only kids need to learn lessons.
At a certain point,
Regardless.
Yeah, only kids need to learn lessons.
At a certain point, once you become an adult, nothing more needs to be taught.
It's in July. My birthday is in July.
So anyway, hey, welcome to the show, where we talk about video game news, and also about the episode of ChillPoint that just went up. Now, it's true that for the last little while, a good portion of the video game news has been Zelda news.
Yes.
Especially if you are on, say, Nintendo Life or, one of the Nintendo-related, specifically related. The amount of
Enthusiast kind of.
but like on say Nintendo Life.
Yes.
The amount of whatever the digital equivalent of column inches, the number of bytes created on Nintendo Life about Zelda, analyzing every frame of the trailer. What does this tell us?
Yeah.
What does this what's going to happen? Does this change what's going on? This person said they saw something. Was it real? I don't know.
Yeah.
But here's a news article about it. They're really big on they have been covering this thing with a fine-tooth comb.
So here's the thing: the more you narrow your scope of what you cover, the more you have to try to make that stretch out.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
even Polygon and a lot of the bigger sites cover more than video games now, right? They cover general nerdery and maybe some board games here and there, and TV shows that relate and stuff as well.
Which is very annoying as somebody who has subscribed to their feeds in order to just get video game news for purposes of ChillPoint.
Yeah, and then you go down to the sites that just cover gaming news, and it's they have everything from PC to Xbox to PlayStation to Nintendo covered, even Steam and Steam Deck and all kinds of tech related things in those degrees as well. But then once you start to narrow it down to, well, do you only cover indie games? Even then, you kind of have a little bit more leeway because indie games take forever to develop, and they have to talk about them all the time because they seriously need people to know they exist. But they're on multiple platforms. You start to narrow down to PlayStation, though, or just Nintendo, and it's well, what's the big thing coming out on their system this month? Oh no, it's only Final Fantasy. Oh, it's only Zelda right now. It's only this one right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate. I think we've talked about it on ChillPoint before, but Nintendo Life actually there's a great thing where they'll talk about general video game stuff.
Yes.
And then the last sentence will be and that's how that's related to the Switch.
Yeah.
They're or there's this thing, this Final Fantasy game, da 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 da. It's not currently available for Switch, but it might soon be available
It
for
could
Switch.
be. One day it might be.
Yeah, sometimes they really got to get into it. Anyway, so yeah, let's talk about
the episode of ChillPoint to start.
So it's ChillPoint. Now, the first story, so the first story we talked about was about the what's his name? David
Right.
Zaslav.
The guy who looks like he's ready to scam you.
He really does.
This came up. We were he looks like the villain from UHF.
Did that make it into the episode?
It did not make it in the episode.
Okay.
It was a little awkward, so yeah. But we all feel that way.
The picture, seriously, when like I didn't make that connection, and then B said it, I was like, holy crap, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, he is an executive.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help the villain status thing. But he looks like he looks like he's trying to scam you out of something.
Yeah.
And that okay, I mean the story is basically it is about Hogwarts Legacy, which but the real story is what he had to say about it. And that quote that is just like, yes, dude, that's how video games work.
Yeah.
My dream is that this he did this wonderful quote of like, a big piece of the success of this game is that you get into it. You're the player and you get into that game and you're in that world. It's a whole new concept. Before it was gaming and it was storytelling, and now it's very difficult to understand what that definition of the metaverse is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sure is, Dave.
And so I've got this vision of this guy who's, he's a big time executive type.
Yep.
The last video game he played was like
Joust.
Pac-Man
Yeah.
or Tetris or something.
Sure, yep.
And then at some point in the last year, he's like, okay, this game is like, we put out this thing. It's made a ton of money for
Yep.
us. I guess I should see what it is.
Should care.
I should go look at it. And he plays it and it blows his mind. And he's like, holy crap. And then and it's like in a year there's going to be like an investor earnings call where he's just like talking about Elden Ring the whole time about how great it is.
That's good. I like that too.
Guys, have you seen this game?
I mean, we don't make it, but man, I've just been spending I've just been going home and spending 18 hours a day playing video games.
Yeah, the board is like, we've been wanting to talk to you about the fact that you haven't been doing any work for us the last little while.
And he's like, but I'm the CEO, and that's my job is to not do any fucking work at all and make a ton of money. That's my reward for being a white guy.
I like to think that somebody like he again never really paid attention to video games or anything, and then someone tried to explain to him what the metaverse was. Like they just jumped right to that point, and so he was just like, okay.
Because like Facebook is putting all this money into it, so they must know what's going on.
Yeah, because that always seems to be a thing. It's like a buzzword shows up, and then everyone's like, oh, we're all doing the buzzword thing.
Right.
And it's like, but you were before under like not a buzzword, or why would you do that at all? Because it doesn't make any sense for what you're doing.
Or you get the thing in like, in the investor call where, some investor goes like, so what is your strategy in regards to the metaverse? And you have to have, you have to say something.
I have to say the word back to them so they understand that I.
Yes,
know what they're
metaverse.
If a CEO would just do that someday, I would be so impressed with them. Be like, oh, well, metaverse. And just be like, do that for about 30 seconds and then be like, have I answered your question sufficiently?
It's like how there's lots of consternation about people doing like, NFTs and different things like that never came to anything because people were like, so what's your strategy with NFTs? And all the people on the, the company folks are like, we're looking into that. Yeah. And then there's a big headline being like, these people are going to do NFTs.
Yeah. Which I think in a way is like kind of a valuable thing too, to be like, you kind of read the tea leaves on that because you said, well, they're not actually saying they're doing them. They're just saying that they're interested. And I'm like, right. And that means that they probably won't do anything with them. But also, by having to say a thing like that, it galvanizes the rest of the people hearing who aren't shareholders to be like, don't do this. It's a terrible idea. And then they get to take that information and be like, okay, just say we're doing something and drag that shit out. And maybe we don't actually have to really do it. Keeps the shareholders happy, and because we're not actually making them, it keeps the audience happy.
I've been reading Laura K. Buzz and her wife book. Who Hunts the Whale, and it's satire, but it's been taking me so long to read it because it's filled with executives who say things just that are like, are our bonuses big enough? And I'm like, I can't. It's a little bit too. It's so. I mean, I like to think that people don't actually talk that way, but at the same time, I've met people who talk that way. So,
Yep.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I see here when that guy makes this quote, because it's just like, it feels like he's trying to make a point, and then he's just like, and then metaverse. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what?
Best thing about this game is you go into it. I'm like,
it reminded me a lot of the the old thing of the internet is a series of tubes.
Yeah.
Where, everyone clowned on that guy.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what his name was, what senator it was.
He was from Alaska.
But
yeah.
In a lot of ways, that isn't actually a terrible explanation.
Yeah.
It's not a truck you can put things on. It's
Yeah.
a series of tubes. It sounds dumb.
Yeah.
But I have heard many people in the past, since that happened, sort of tongue-in-cheek, but also not just actually using that as an explanation.
It really is perfect.
And but it was one of those things where this is somebody who has, they've sort of had it explained to them, and they're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Now I shall attempt to deliver this information on.
Yeah.
And then it gets kind of not quite translated properly.
Now I have 3 points of information to determine how old a person is and kind of what they do for a living. Did you read Snow Crash? Did you read Ready Player One? Or are you just an exec that somebody explained what the metaverse was to you?
Yeah.
Random tangent about Ready Player One that I think about every time I play a video game is the big innovation, the big thing that made it the breakout thing that made it so that they could get the
do the movie the way they
no in the movie.
Oh, okay.
The big breakout thing that got the first stage of this big riddle that they have to solve, the scavenger hunt, is that they went backwards in the race. At the beginning, it's rather than you go backwards in the race. If anybody has played any video games ever, you always go back.
Yes.
I was just playing Hi-Fi Rush, and every level you start, you look behind you to see where because there's 50% of the time there's a power up there, and then you continue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every gamer will do that.
You got to also remember to look up.
Yes.
Actually, in Hi-Fi Rush a lot, you should be looking up.
Are there
But
waterfalls?
but the idea
Not in that
that
game.
Oh.
I think that it betrays a lack of understanding that the writer of the game of the book
Yes.
thought that was a big something that nobody else would have thought of.
Yeah.
When it's that's
Well, because if you're
everyone
playing
does
a
that.
racing game, the whole idea in the racing game is go forward and do the thing, right? But I'm like, sure. But if you're solving a riddle, it doesn't matter about the racing game. It's like, well, if I'm solving a riddle, then what does it matter if I win the game? The point is to actually try to figure out the secret, and the secret is always behind you.
Anyway,
I guess I should include Persona 5 as well, because they use the term metaverse, but I can't remember if it's actually used in the same way as the terms originally meant to be used.
I'm still thinking about series of tubes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's.
I know we all get stuck on our own things.
It's so if he had said it's like a series of tubes, or you could think of it as a series of tubes that have but he just went, it's not a truck you can put something on, it's a series of tubes. I'm like, you sound like a madman. But if you've been like, it's not a truck you just dump stuff on, it's like a series of tubes that get certain full. If he'd been a little more
for a simile than a metaphor.
Well, yeah, if it was if he was a little more nuanced about how he was going to tell the story, I'm like, you would have come out a lot differently, dude. But you sounded like a crazy person. So
yeah, everything gets reduced to the sound bites.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, I think that's basically it about that story. Other than also this incredibly innovative idea of exploiting our IPs for money.
Yeah,
and
it's like, what is it? We own our IP, so we should use it. And okay, even if we go to the thing of the publisher owns the IP, and there are a lot more publishers who do own their IPs. There are a lot of publishers who don't. They're just publishing. But
I also think that it's a little inexcusable. If you said to this guy that it's like, hey, so tell me more. Let's try here. Tell me more about all the money you're making off of Harry Potter as a book series. And he says, the great thing about books is they have words in them. And you sit down and you read them, and then there's reading, and then you picture it in your head, and it's hard to describe what a book is like. Like if he did that kind of shit, it'd be like, oh, what a good CEO. Like you're just like, wow, holy crap, can somebody give this man a hand, because he is having some trouble here. And I'm like, I don't think you have an excuse as the CEO of a major media corporation that has a huge stake. You just made $1 billion in revenue off of this game. You don't have an excuse where it's like, well, I don't know what video games are. I'm like, no, dude, if you made $1 billion off them, you have to know what a video game is. And you have to know it better than my grandson just explained it to me.
Well, and you should probably at least have some idea of understanding of the projects that are happening within the company, the things that are making all that money, right?
Because just saying like, well, I was thinking that maybe what we'll do is we'll also do that with DC. Like if the thing is we're going to use other IPs, because he does mention it's like other IPs should do it. Like you've been making DC video games.
I was
this
gonna
whole
say,
time.
like, aren't there a few big? I mean, I know there's a bunch of big Marvel games out right
if
now.
they're talking about the DC movie universe specifically, though, that might not be a thing. But yeah, there have been.
Never.
Was it Gotham Knights? I think.
I mean, they're
one of the last ones.
Yeah, all the Gotham games that come out and stuff. I guess those are not really DCU stuff. But.
Gotham Knights didn't review super well.
Yeah.
No, which is a shame, because the other, like the trilogy that Rocksteady made before the Arkham series was really cool.
Right. Yeah.
The yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll see the open world DC Universe game.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not gonna play that. Not likely. It's.
I don't know what other big IPs Warner Brothers has.
I don't have anything against the DC superheroes.
The Animaniacs, I guess.
Just.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know that they would think.
Oh,
to
they're
use
relaunching
that.
Tiny Toon Adventures.
What?
Yeah. I saw a trailer, and I was like, this looks
Is it?
really scary to me, because I don't know if it's going to be good or not.
No.
They have to jump down another generation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like now, Babs and Buster are the adults.
Oh no,
Same
they did. They
age.
had
All
an
the same
entire
age. Yeah.
episode about how in Tiny Toon Adventures about how cartoon characters can live forever at the age that they are because people believe in them and watch their stuff. That's why Bugs Bunny exists the way they are. Yeah, Babs Bunny went on a whole thing looking for a very specific black and white character from film that I cannot remember the name of.
Wait. Babs and Buster are related?
They're actually related now? Great. Okay.
That's their like catchphrase.
No relation.
They're
Yeah.
not being related is the joke.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's annoying.
Because if they were not related, they'd have to kiss, and they're like, well, we can't let them kiss, so they have to now be brother and sister.
Well, and
They
it's
were
a-
never
and they-
that interested in each
And
other.
it's just
like
they
that.
both have Bunny as their last name.
Yeah.
Because they're rabbits, which is the joke.
Which is weird, because Heather and I both have Deary as our last name, but apparently nobody has a clue if we're related or not.
It was one comment.
Good
It
comments.
was one comment.
Anyway.
And they didn't say that. They just said they didn't know we were going out.
Are these two dating? Yeah. Well.
I was frankly like, we made it. Because Graham and Kathleen are the ones who only ever get that
And
comment.
their names don't even match. Yeah.
All right, let's move on let's move back to Zelda, I guess, because there actually was a bunch of Zelda stories.
Sure was.
This again, just to quickly,
No game spoiler.
no spoiler
stories.
stuff.
It's just
None of us have any information that would make it into spoilers, and if we did, we would not spoil it for
not
you.
here.
exactly.
So this is just stuff relating to starting with the that quite cool ad campaign.
Oh, I loved it.
I need to watch the video.
Ad campaign of just
And the actual the recut.
Yeah.
I loved I just thought it's sort of this neat idea of I appreciate the idea of targeting an ad towards like adults.
Yeah.
And being and not like you can be a kid too, but actually just like this is, you don't have to be, it's not, you don't have to be like a goofy
Yeah.
whatever. It's like this is a thing. This is a leisure activity that adults do.
Yeah.
And they find it enjoyable, and there's nothing wrong with that.
And
I will.
Sorry, I was going to say the way that they portray it as well is, man comes home, has a glass of water, his wife comes over and touches his shoulder. I'm assuming his wife, because they don't kiss, which, like, you should kiss. It would have been nice. But she comes over and touches his shoulder, and then he walks over to the couch and he looks down and sees a copy of Tears of the Kingdom, which then is like, oh, she left that there for me to play. It was what kind of the implication is how I feel.
I like to think she's been playing it, but she put it out there because she's like, you'll like this too.
Exactly. And he sat down to play it, and he just kind of like, it felt honest, and
And
it
then
felt
deleted her save file.
Yes. It felt honest and it felt real, because it was like, yeah, you come home and you're like, I want to relax. I'm going to play a game. And so that's what he does, is he just sat down and he played a game. And then his whole like day, the next day or the end of the weekend or whatever, I'm assuming it's launch weekend when he got it. And it's like, so the end of the weekend when he's been up 36 hours playing the game straight, gets on Monday, he's like, I'm still playing on the bus. I'm having a great time. I'm mumbling under my breath. And I'm just, the lift that you get from it, it's not like, oh my God, it's so, like, it's none of that. It's just kind of like, yeah, this is kind of firing those dopamine and like getting a little bit of that and some serotonin in my brain, whatever. And it's like, this is nice. This is the experience I want to have, is this kind of thing. And this Zelda game specifically, or like Breath of the Wild as well, are meditative in a lot of ways that let you feel that it's like, I can just wander around this very beautiful world and just do these things. And it can be a lot, or it cannot be a lot, depending on what I want to do.
I just wish he'd been wearing some earbuds or some headphones or something, because being on the bus with other people, no.
Yeah. That's not nice.
Also, actually, I just realized that, like, if she had been playing it and then left it out for him, he took the Switch to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a kind of a dick move.
It's true, yeah. Maybe they share Switches, or like they both each have their own. We have 3 in the house now, but it's like they each have. He can have mine. That's. Can have the extra one that I don't need anymore. So, dude, if you're out there, imaginary Australian guy who I'm not going to give a copy to. Also, your Australian copy won't work on my U.S. Switch anyway. I don't think, right?
No, their Switches are not region locked.
You're right, because I have a Korean copy of a game. That's right.
The eShop stores are.
That's right. Okay.
So that's kind of how that works.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, I thought it was neat. It was that it was sort of relatively serious ad. It didn't go goofy or whatever, and just was like, yeah, this is a fun game.
Yeah.
You'll enjoy it. It is a thing that adults can do.
Yeah.
I do like seeing the variety of commercials that Nintendo tends to do, because they're like the gameplay commercials. There's here's just the game with the announcer generally being like, you can do thing, and it's very exciting. And then if it's a family game, you see like family, or sometimes they just do those more generic commercials where it's like, look at all the different people playing in like a dorm room, or
Right.
like talking on the phone with their friends because they're playing Animal Crossing together or whatever.
Extremely suspiciously diverse group of people playing this game.
And this ad just to me felt like an inhale and an exhale, and I was like, it's so much like the Ring Fit ads and stuff too. Show a person in their house doing the thing, enjoying it, make it feel like it's a real activity they're doing, make it feel like it's something that's really happening, even if they have a massive apartment, and just kind of have that sense of like, we can be adults and enjoying this stuff, and we don't have to feel bad for it. And also, we can take a blockbuster video game that's, and rather than make it exciting and fireworks, we can make it your experience. This is how you're going to feel, because you can feel this way. You can also get really hyped about it and go home and fight a whole bunch of stuff too. But why not also indulge this idea?
Also, shout outs to our Australian viewers.
Yeah.
Who in the comments were like, what's wrong with sorting koalas?
Yeah.
Oh, nothing.
That is a totally
Absolutely
normal
not.
thing that we do in Australia.
Exactly.
We couldn't find a more accurate photo, though.
Yeah.
So if you could send us
secretive
one,
about it. It's like,
that would be great. You can send your koala picking photos to Twitter at @LoadingReadyRun.
I'm not even sure if that they're allowed to take photos of their sorting of koalas, because I couldn't find any online. I had to rely upon the game they make for the children to teach them how to do it.
I know, but I think if they blur out some aspects, it'll be fine.
Okay, fair.
I was kind of hoping that the people that a bunch of people in the comments would have like massive nostalgia for that particular it's like one of those weird toys that like every kid had.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the koala sorting toy. Mm-hmm. I love that. That's how we all learn our colors and numbers.
I believe the next Zelda thing is about lining up for the game.
Right, which somebody what is
Captain Nintendo Dude.
Captain Nintendo Dude,
specifically at the New York store.
CND.
Yeah.
Lining up
72 hours.
72 hours in advance, which, I mean, you know, we've done, we back in way early days of Loading Ready Run, we did a few things where we were like, for the PS3, I think we did like interviewing people in line, like Gib interviewed people in line and
we
stuff.
did it for the Switch too.
Yeah. We did some fun. There's obvious, like, I think people who are like, this is, you know, stupid. You could have just pre-ordered it online, right? Like, you're missing the point is the sort of
community of it.
Yeah, it's the sort of experience of doing it and hanging out like that. And I totally get that. I wouldn't personally do it in the streets of New York, but that's maybe because I'm from the little island in Canada and New York scares me.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole process of standing in a line waiting for a thing that everybody else there is also excited to be for means that you have an entire line of people who have the same interest as you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a bad thing or a good thing.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's a fun thing.
Yeah. And his whole thing where it's like...
You talk to another person, you like Zelda too? Oh, wow, what are the odds?
Anyone here in this line like Zelda at all? Like,
Oh,
shit.
is that what this line is for? Oh, shit.
My wife told me to come in and get this for our kid. I have no idea what you guys are doing here. That's the worst when you meet somebody who's like, I had to show up and pick this up for somebody else, and I don't know what the hell any of this is. It's like, oh, good. Would you like to know?
Do you like to know some stuff? Because we have time.
When they're kind of surprised, when they're like, I didn't think it'd be such a big deal. I didn't realize there'd be a line. Like, she said there'd be a line, but I thought it'd be like 10 people. I didn't realize it'd be like 400 people.
I mean, I read some stories when Metroid Prime came out of people who were like, we didn't like line up for the game, but they got there like the day the game was supposed to release, so they're there early before the store opens, and they're like, there are a couple of older dudes who've only ever played Metroid here, and they're very excited for essentially and not Prime, just the original, just the originals. So they're here for this one, and they're gonna buy a Switch today. They're gonna buy Metroid Prime, and it's so exciting.
Nice.
And I think that's really cool. Those are good experiences.
I remember going to Boston for PAX East, and I think this was like the second year PAX East was around, so it was not, you know, I think this was when it was still in the Heinz Center.
Okay. Yeah.
But you know, it was
still a production.
It was still a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And we were visiting some other folks in Boston that were running like they're doing some sort of web media stuff.
I see. Yeah.
We were visiting them and talking about them. We were like, oh yeah, we're in town for PAX. And they're like, what's PAX? And they're like, it's, you know, this big video game convention. They're like, oh, really? When's that happening? It's like, it's this week. There's like 40,000 people going to this thing in your town.
Yeah.
You should probably know about this.
If you didn't know about it, you're about to find out. Like,
it's like this was kind of a big deal in the geek community. Yeah.
Yeah. But like a video game lineup is a little bit different than, say, because like
console lineup,
a party lineup, or like a console lineup's a little bit more thing.
I think
but
I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
Like
Sorry.
I've lined up to get into PAX, even though I shouldn't have had to that one weekend. And the people I got sat next to were a couple of dudes who kept going through the guest book talking about how hot she was and stuff. These are not fun lineups.
No.
Sitting in for a line where everybody's excited for the game that's coming out, and you can all talk, especially something that's had like a lot of games where you can be like, oh, what's your favorite one? Oh yeah, I really like this one. Did you watch like the Zelda Theory video about this thing? Like, those are fun. Those are fun times.
Yeah, everyone's laser focused on a single subject, and you kind of just are able to concentrate on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like PAX actually was I don't know if they came up with the idea, but I feel like back in the early days of PAX, one of their big innovations as a as a consumer trade show
Yeah.
was the line room.
Yes.
That like they would actually have an entire space literally devoted to lines.
Yeah, I don't know if they gave that
and
themselves
then
or not.
and then they would have like there's like people would sort of do little sort of games and things and
Well, Paul.
different things and that's where we started playing Magic with the little half packs of Magic cards that they gave us in our little
swag
goodie
bags.
bags. Swag bag.
The PAX specifically was the first time I'd ever seen a con that I'd ever been to a con that did that. I don't know if they were the first or not, but we can assume that they had been doing it quite early, and so apparently Anime Expo had that before PAX existed.
Yeah, it's
That's great.
entirely possible.
Yeah.
Part of the trouble with most conventions that are running on shoestring budgets can't do line rooms because you have to rent out that room. And if you rent out a room, then you're like...
The idea of devoting an entire room
Yeah.
to not content
Exactly.
seems like a terrible idea.
But then when you figure that it's like, well, we're going to be putting 900 people in this room in a minute, and it's like, well, if I can have those 900 people in this room and send them to that room, that actually starts to feel pretty appealing.
Yeah, like you're starting to hit like high levels of trying to move things around because that line room is for lines for specific times, but could potentially still be a room that you still had to rent out anyway,
Yeah.
because if you're renting the entire convention center, or it might be a room that you're going to put something in later when you don't need it for
Yeah.
the line thing. But
And it's also a nice way to be like, so Synaptic Chaos Theater, one year, a few of us who were going to PAX, I think we decided we were going to go to PAX, and this was the reason we were going to go to PAX, is we're like, we want to get a show doing improv at PAX. And we submitted, we didn't get accepted to do improv at PAX. It's like, that's too bad. But what we could do is at Line Entertainment, the Line Entertainment department or group or whatever you want to call them, they're like, hey, if anybody wants to come be a part of the group, by all means, and you can go around doing those kind of things. So what we did, we coordinated with them. They were very gracious. I'm so happy they were like, yeah, you guys can totally go around and do whatever you want. I thought they were gonna like break us up and assign us to whatever. Like, no, go find a line that's big that no one is doing anything at, and then just announce yourselves and that you're here to do some line entertainment, and then do whatever it is you're gonna do. So we would go into rooms in the Sheraton that were big line rooms, and we'd say hi to everybody, and then we'd do like a 3-game show or a 4-game show just to kind of break up the monotony before they have to go into another room, and that was just a thing we did, and then we would leave the room and go do something else. And it's like I think we still had to pay for our own badges.
yeah, it was a volunteer thing
because we didn't really coordinate too far ahead of time.
But
Yeah.
it's great. It's like the opposite of, it's like, because it's like, it's not only just when you're doing your own show in the theater,
Yeah.
you've got that kind of captive audience.
Exactly.
But if they don't like you, they can leave.
yes.
When they're in line for
Yes.
something else, they have to like you so much that they don't want to see the thing they were.
And it's a hard line to run, because it's like, oh, these assholes just walked into the line room and started doing improv at me, and I want to sit here and play Magic or play my video games or do whatever. And it's like, yeah, this is a hard line to cross, because you still have half the room on their 3DSs like playing games.
Right,
and
right.
stuff.
Well, and because it's a line, there's going to be a lot of that line isn't
Yeah.
going to be able to see you or hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you have to be loud and
there's only certain things.
But it was very fun to do that, because for the like 40 or 50 people around us, they loved it, they laughed, they participated, because it's like, I hope they want to take part, because we need energy back from the audience. And I'm like, that was great for us.
We only did that the one year.
Yeah.
As I believe the plan was like, then they'll know who we are, and then next year they will take the submission.
Exactly.
That didn't work.
No, it did not, because so we did line entertainment previously. We had a great time doing this. We'd like to have a whole thing, and I think it was like 2 or 3 years after, 2 maybe 3, whatever it was after that, where moving to Victoria and then hanging out with Loading Ready Run, and then that whole thing with Mike Robles and Dan Emmons and like Greg
the
Stackhouse
improv
and all
thing,
those
yeah.
guys who were kind of doing the improv stuff, and Graham got folded into that, and then he brought us in as well to be like, these guys are good at improv. And I know that the rest of the Seattle crew were like, we'll be the fucking judge of that. And it was like, oh shit, they are good at improv. Okay, this is
Yeah.
good. We can have them on stage.
I will iterate.
Yeah,
We did not
we're-
become friends with Loading Ready Run in order to infiltrate
No,
PAX.
absolutely not.
That was never. We never
I-
thought that
I
far
can't-
ahead.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been bad return on investment if that was the entire plan.
Yep. And then the third story that we didn't talk about.
Hands.
Hands. This This is the idea behind Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
I love these interviews with, and I think it's partially like a sort of a translation thing.
Yeah.
That often these interviews with Japanese game developers, they end up sounding very sort of terse about things.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm sure there's a lot that's missed in the translation. But yeah, just being like, the really inspiration for this game was hands.
Not a man named Hans. No, you're the things on the ends of your arms, perhaps, that you might have.
Which is, I mean, so yeah, he's got the, you could see the thing on the in the in the amiibo. He's got even the
the handout. I mean, like
the game is all about
one
throwing
of the
hands.
one of the first the very first.
There's no swords. It's only punching.
The very first trailer they showed back in like 2019 had that big giant green hand holding down the mummified.
That's true too. Yeah.
Ganon and stuff. So I'm like, sure, there's a lot of hands. You could say hands.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet I wonder if there's going to be those things like in Elden Ring, those like big stone hands that are running around.
Oh, good, because the hands in previous like
wall masters.
Yeah, wall masters.
Oh, right, the things that drop and pick you
Yeah,
up.
that's
Oh.
a very Zelda
those were
thing.
scary.
I
So
hate those.
I just finished playing Ocarina of Time 3D, and I swear in the original, when one was going to drop on you, there was just a circle. Right, they got bigger.
Yeah, there
and
was
you
a
had
shadow,
to.
yeah.
In the 3D version, because this is the first time I played the updated one, you can see a shadow of an actual hand coming
Great.
down at you, and it's so much creepier.
Oh,
Yep.
I don't like that.
It makes a swishing noise. Paul, it's like, and when the noise stops, you're about to get grabbed.
So it's like One Punch Grand, but it's a man.
That's not even counting the I think it's in the well, you fight a thing called Dead Hand, and there's a bunch of hands just sticking out of the ground that try to grab you, and then a creepy thing comes up.
Cool.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I just
Right.
played this game, so
Right.
it's very fresh in my brain.
Uh,
I played most of it in an evening. I stayed up way too late.
Oh yeah, straight up. If they actually gave him a power glove to wear in the game, I would be so pleased.
Oh, that'd be funny.
I mean,
We don't know anything about the
DLC.
new outfits. There could be gloves now.
but like I wouldn't put like considering the way they sort of do like there's like the slate, whatever, which is just a switch, but
Yeah.
like with styling.
And some of the DLC, there was a DLC you could get that was just a red T-shirt that had the Nintendo Switch logo on it that he could wear in game.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that DLC was hilarious. Link walking around in like a T-shirt is like watching any of your friends you're not used to seeing T-shirts and wear T-shirts.
Yeah, like watching Ian in a T-shirt. Yeah.
Or Cameron.
Or Cameron.
Yeah,
Or Cameron, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then the last story that we talked about, the thing, was actually something that we talked about on ChillPoint last week.
So we don't have to really
So
discuss
we don't
it.
need to go
So
really
the
go into
Redfall
it, but
thing, yeah.
basically Redfall was kind of a disappointment, and apparently their Xbox has an internal mock review team
Yeah.
that is not reliable.
Well,
For whatever reason, whether they were not they were not evaluating
they missed
it.
the mark.
They were not evaluating it appropriately, apparently.
I wonder how, like, to be on a team like that, because if it is an internal team and your job is to basically review something as it's like approaching gold, because I imagine they don't do it once they go gold master, that they're kind of like, okay, now review it, right? It's like you have to kind of be in constant review process, and that I wonder, because that can't be your only job. You have to fit that in with other stuff.
Yeah, who knows?
You
Like,
don't know who the reviewers are.
I
yeah,
would assume testers, though, right? That's what I
presumably it's
think.
part of the QA process, but
Yeah.
Maybe.
my imagination is that it's like a third-party
Yeah.
company that they bring in.
That
You
would
see,
be good.
what you do, I was thinking you have to bring in like a third-party company, but then in order to get an accurate view,
Mm-hmm.
you have to get like maybe 4 or 5 people to review the game
Right.
as different outlet. Be like, this guy's going to do a Kotaku review of the game.
Okay.
This guy's got to do like a Polygon review of the game.
Yeah, yeah.
Or it's like, this guy's going to review it as somebody who's,
Got a major axe to grind against Microsoft.
is like somebody who hates Microsoft. This guy's going to review it as somebody who is angry because there's, I don't know, that some of the vampires are black or something. Like, it's that he thinks there's forced diversity in it. And this guy's going to review it because he will just love anything that Arcane makes. We need all the different aspects of terrible online reviews.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess.
Too much. But I think you're right, actually, that's if you want to get a more honest, like an honest depiction of how your game is doing, I think you need that kind of variance. But if you're working for the company,
another guy who just review bombs the other 3 people.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're let's say it's not Microsoft takes the game and reviews it, like or Bethesda even.
All right.
If the review process is actually like specific to that studio, specific to Arcane Austin, and they're like, okay, we're going to review this thing internally, and we're going to follow the guidelines that are set out, and the testers are doing it. It's like, well, the testers have been playing it all this time. They're going to have a bit of a skewed idea of what goes on in the game to begin with. So they're not coming at it fresh. They're coming at it after having been like kind of soaking in it for a little while and being like, well, this is how the game operates. I've understood how the game operates. I get a sense of the things I need to do and don't to make stuff happen. And if they're not seeing, I'm not accusing them of that, because maybe it's not it. Maybe it's maybe there actually is a team at Xbox whose job it is to take a game before it's finished and be like, we have to review it because we haven't actually had a chance to play it. But if that is the case, then that's even weirder, that it's like Xbox corporate reviewed a game for their own system and they didn't see the problems, is what it feels like. Because I'm like, I'd be more inclined to believe the QA testers who were on the internal team at Arcane weren't feeling the problems.
All right, so Redfall, according to howlongtobeat.com, takes about 11 hours for your main story, 17 hours with main story and extra, about 27 and a half for completionism.
Right.
How, when they do a mock review, do they also only give the reviewer the same amount of time that they're going to give the actual reviewer?
Like a journalist takes it and they're like, you've
they
got
know,
it for
they
2
know
hours
they know they've
or
got
less.
like maybe 2 days of embargo time.
Right.
So does that reviewer also only get 2 days of embargo time?
That's an interesting point.
Are they expected to play the whole game?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, I'm sure that the concept of an internal mock review team makes sense when I think about it. I just had literally never heard somebody say that out loud before. And so which is probably, it's one of those things that, it's like, that's not really the story in that particular story, but that's the part that I was like, wait, huh? That's the part that I sort of got interested in. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the idea that Phil Spencer is just like, yep, not so good.
Well, and you don't also have a clue as to who's going to review this game when it comes out. Like how many outlets are going to review it? Who's going to review it in what ways? Which reviews are going to make it onto Metacritic? Of the users that are doing the reviews, which users are actually pissed off enough about this game that they actually want to leave a really shitty review? Are they going to leave are they going to leave a 1 out of 10 because they were looking forward to this game so much and they're overly mad about it? Like, there's a bunch of variance there.
I mean, that's part of the reason why you allow for variance.
And they did 10 points either way, maybe, right?
In a thing like that, and but also some of those questions they actually do know the answer to. How many outlets are going to review this game? They probably know which ones will, based on which ones are on their own list of people they send review copies to.
Fair, yeah.
Right, and all of those are going to probably end up on Metacritic. You can't really decide how it's going to work for. There comes a point where you just have to put a thing out and see what happens.
True.
But again, that's I think what the variance is for.
Yeah.
And if this is a thing they do with other games, and this has never really come out, then it may have always been at least close enough to the mark. Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Heather and I talked about that in different aspects last week as well.
I'm guessing you also mentioned the thing of like, because I did see it come up in chat and we completely skipped over it, but if you work for the company, you might be like, I better not say anything bad about the product.
Well,
we brought up that as a possibility. Too, I don't think that's necessarily
a motivator.
Again, because we don't know how mock reviews within the company are done, and lots of times companies outsource parts of a game,
Yeah.
or you like. I mean, we mentioned QA testers, but I feel like QA testers probably don't get to just play the game and review it.
Fair. Yeah.
I mean, I do, I'm sure it's not done this way, but it does the image of somebody being like, oh, another 10 out of 10, sir.
Yeah.
Great job. Game of the year. Mm-hmm. It's like Jenkins, you've rated the last 5 games game of the. Not every game can be game of the year. I didn't think so either, sir, but here we are. Just knocking it out of the park over and over again. What can I say?
And frankly, like if you did that at some point, someone is going to say, "Hang on a minute, like you were the one who said it was a great game. I think you're the problem because you won't tell us when things are broken."
Well, it's like I was reading a story about the guy at Nintendo America that decided what games Nintendo brought to America.
Ah.
I forget what his name is.
Right, he was the guy who worked in like the shipping with the arcades or something.
Oh, this isn't
like,
Howard Phillips, is it? Because he was the head of Nintendo America
No,
eventually.
no,
He was like a guy in the shipping department.
Okay.
Or something. And for whatever reason, his opinion, the heads of Nintendo felt that his opinion was accurate to what Americans thought. So like that's why we didn't get Super Mario Brothers 2, like
Lost Levels.
Yeah,
what
but it
became
is why
Lost
we
Levels.
got Zelda.
Oh, okay.
And so for a number of years, this one guy was just like, will Americans like this? And he's like, sure. And you're like, okay, we'll port it.
Holy shit! Wow.
Yeah, it's
Good
well,
for
they
Bob
cover
and
that
shipping.
story in what's that book series? I can't remember. There's that series of books that's all about different games, but they're not necessarily about the game. They're about a person's experience with the game, and I can't remember.
Oh, is this that Game Center X, Game Center GX, CX, whatever it was?
No.
Okay.
I can't remember for the life of me.
All right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're really early on Nintendo.
Yeah, it was just like I think they had a few flubs, and they were just like, it's like we
Not
don't
really
understand
sure,
the
yeah.
American market. We need somebody to tell us.
That's cool.
Anyway, let's move on to some of the stories that we didn't talk about. There's another a story that I actually saw while I was getting stuff for the Hogwarts making $1 billion or whatever story, that I was just like, wait, what? Stuff I didn't know because I haven't played the game. There's, if you've watched the movies or watched the book, there are certain spells that are the unforgivable curses.
Oh, okay.
Which is like the Avacadabra, the ones that just like kill you.
It
I
kills
see.
a person immediately, and
And it is considered to be like
it's
you know,
outlawed.
It is.
It's the murder
outlawed.
spell,
It is
so-
the unforgivable curse.
Okay.
You can use that spell in the game. It's in the game.
Okay. Fine. Sure. I mean, that's
And it's
choices.
supposed to be like a choice thing.
Yeah.
But up until recently, you could use it against bosses and just kill them.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And then they patched that in the latest patch to make it so it doesn't work against bosses.
Ah, come on.
And so people are like, it's just sort of just the argument or the discussion online, like, what, you mean I can't use the unforgivable curse when you don't want me to?
Yeah.
Like, oh, it would be impolite to use the unforgivable curse.
That boss is working really hard, yeah.
That would be poor sportsmanship.
Oh my god. My mega elixirs.
Yeah.
Oh
Anyway.
Jesus.
I just found that highly amusing as something that they updated. I guess. I mean, like the idea of having a thing in the game where like you can kill the boss like that.
Yeah.
But there's some consequence further on. Could be
Yes.
quite an interesting idea.
But if you wait till the end of the game and use it against the final boss, you're like, done. And it's like the game ends. Like it's like the game is over now, and now we have to. What happens? Like, I beat the fucking game, didn't I? Like, it's like, I don't. Oh, there's some stuff in the ending about whatever, but who cares? Because I beat the game and I don't have to be a wizard anymore.
I mean, Harry Potter's not exactly a great place for morality.
no.
So I can't imagine that you chose the evil route, became a villain, and still won the game is
Yeah.
going to have any consequences.
Absolutely.
In other morality news, FIFA.
Oh, good.
No. So this is not the company FIFA. This is the video game series FIFA 23, which you may recall we talked about is the last FIFA game
That EA is making.
that EA is making.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
they're gonna
it is the end of
rename it
the
to a different thing, right?
end of the FIFA series,
Right.
As we
and
know it.
they're renaming it to, I think it's called like EA
Action Soccer.
EA Sports FC.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
football camp
Football club, but yeah.
club, right?
But I like football camp better,
like
actually. I'm
football
going to call
camp.
it that from now on.
Which is interesting because they already announced that, and and it turns out FIFA 23 has been it has surpassed the lifetime sales of FIFA 22 in 6 months.
Good for them. Holy shit.
So it's been like ridiculously successful.
Hang on. If the lifetime sales of FIFA 22 would be starting in 2022, so it's like
2020.
End of
21.
2021-ish.
Yeah.
So they've basically, the lifetime sales of FIFA 2022 would have been the year that FIFA 2022 was being sold over, starting in 2021
Yeah.
and ending when 2023 comes out, most likely, because everyone
Well.
want to buy 2023. So it's like
So it's like in half the time.
in half the time, but it's only in a year. It's not like it's like, oh, they did it in 6 months, but they've been selling 2022 for decades. Like that hasn't been
No,
happening.
no,
yeah.
of course not.
It's still really good. Like it's
But
a lot of
the-
money.
And so, but of course they've already announced that they're canceling the series. So it's
Yeah.
a little bit of, I don't know, maybe people are like, oh man, I want to get in on that. Whatever, a part of our heritage. We'll get to play FIFA again.
Might as well, yeah.
So anyway, I
They're
just
kind of going out on top.
going out. They say it delivered a strong finish to their fiscal year.
I'm
So-
so happy
yeah.
to hear that.
Good for EA.
Yeah.
I guess
You know,
the
nobody
interesting,
could deserve it more.
the interesting thing is when they bring out the game the next year under the new branding.
Like, is it
to
just
see how much, like, does it drop? Does it go, like, does it kind of maintain more of the same medium? Because it's just, people are like, no, it's
And-
sports game. I like sports game. We continue.
and is it just renamed same game, or are they actually going to go in a different direction with it?
They
Yeah.
should maybe name it after like a luminary in the football field, and I recommend that they call it John Madden Football 2023 and see what happens.
I think they might get sued.
Well, they already make John Madden Football, so I think they can use.
They might sue themselves.
be allowed
Like,
to do
yeah.
that.
I mean, I'm certainly John Madden is a name that I very closely associate with football.
Yes.
There's no denying that.
Exactly. That would be really good. Also, so AFC Richmond, right? That's
Yeah.
from Ted Lasso. So that stands for A Football Camp Richmond.
Yeah.
A football camp in Richmond,
Yes.
which is true.
I mean, it would be really funny if
Didn't
instead of
FIFA add them into the game?
They are in.
they're in 2023. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in
that
2023.
might actually be more of why the bump is happening.
I would maybe.
Could
Yeah.
be.
I want to
Could be.
think. I want to think that Ted Lasso is so big that provides a bump.
I think it's not only that, but it's also I think you get to play as Wrexham as well, because Wrexham has been like a big deal because of the Road to Wrexham. I think is what Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney's
Right.
purchase of the Wrexham Football Club in Wales. That's also really gotten like people in America, like people in North America, really excited about the idea of football, soccer. Because it's like, oh, these guys just went and did a thing, and Ryan Reynolds and Rob are just really kind of like fun, happy dudes.
I mean,
it seems.
when we were watching Ted Lasso this last week. My brain was just like, and you'd like a football scarf, wouldn't you? And I'm like, I don't even watch football though.
Yeah, but you kind of
But I
want
kind of want a
a
football scarf.
an AFC Richmond scarf. I mean, if they called it EA Sports Presents Ted Lasso Football 2023, I think that would be fantastic.
Look, if they could do a campaign,
and have Jason Sudeikis be
Sid-
the voice.
Jason Sudeikis be the face of football.
if they could do
Yeah.
a campaign thing where I get to play as some of the different coaches going through their things, I kind of might be into that.
Yeah, I think people kind of who don't play football maybe would like that experience of getting to do the comedy side of football with it. But yeah,
Do you remember playing old Flash games on
Newgrounds?
Congregate,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Newgrounds,
Oh
Armor Games?
no, I wasn't one of those.
I played a few, but not a ton. Yeah,
I've heard of them.
like Grow and stuff. I really like.
People
those.
tell me about these days of the past that I did not participate in. I was around for those days. I just didn't do it.
So, what's the? Let me just double check
The name of the group that is.
the name. John Cooney, who is the current CEO of Armor Games, but used to be a big Flash game developer, or I say big Flash game developer in the sense it was just him making Flash games, but some of his games got quite popular.
Oh, okay. So notorious or famous.
Notorious.
Yeah.
You might recognize this little elephant dude. The little elephant like escaping from a room and stuff. He had a whole series of games that were little elephants.
Cute.
And now, he is now CEO of Armor Games. This is the only level and achievement unlocked, or two of the games that he worked on.
Okay.
Now they are releasing the Elephant Collection, which is a collection of these games, because of course Flash is dead.
Wait,
Yes.
wait. How do you eat an electronic elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Because Flash is no longer supported by Adobe or anybody,
Yeah.
and it's not available in web browsers and stuff. None of these games work anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so they've gone through and taken the assets for it and basically remade the game in a way that can be played in Steam.
Nice.
And they're releasing these games in the Elephant Collection. Armor Games is publishing it. They're saying, although they did run into what I like about some of the stuff. They're talking about, for one thing, they can make the art. Flash is a vector-based system, and so they were able to, they don't have to like redraw the art. Like they can just kind of scale up the art, and it works really well. It's nice and clean and stuff. So it works really well. But they're saying there's some weird stuff, some of the neat things that were able to be done, because like they're saying in Achievement Unlocked, there's some stuff that you have to do where it actually opens up a separate browser window.
Oh,
And you do stuff between two browser windows,
that's cool. Okay.
Okay.
which is super cool. Hard to recreate when you're
Yeah.
not within an actual, like on Steam or whatever. Like if you're just playing it as a game as opposed to playing it as a thing embedded in a browser.
Right. That is true. Yeah. Wow.
I'm glad to see they're not letting this elephant go to the digital graveyard.
Yeah. I like how you've been just thinking about elephant puns.
Oh,
this
the
whole
chat's
time.
been doing it too. It's
Yeah,
great.
they've been doing a lot
I
of
love
fun.
it when the chat goes off on puns. It's a fun time, Paul.
So anyway, I'm fully in favor of this idea of updating these, especially these old Flash games and stuff that weren't previously that are no longer available in sort of, we talk a lot about video game preservation, servers going offline and stuff. This is a slightly different circumstance in that it's not that it's not that lack of foresight or support by the developer or the publisher is the problem. It's that literally the thing that, like the tool that made the game play, doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. Absolute death of the platform.
And there are Flash emulation things, but presumably they're not that reliable.
But also, if you have like a retro PC, you could probably install an older version, like an old installation of Flash to work with like an older browser and stuff, and be like, okay, here we go. I can have a place to play Flash games. Where am I going to get my Flash games?
Yeah. The problem is probably a lot of the websites aren't around anymore either.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's cool. The Elephant Collection.
Never forget the elephant.
It's funny to think actually that is the thing. That's the platform that has suffered kind of an absolute death, and that something like the NES, you can still get like Famiclones to play old NES games, or you can do emulation or something. But even at like a hardware level, you can still like get out a known NES and plug stuff in and work off of it. But like with Flash, it's like, oh, I'm gonna have to have an old PC and install Flash on it, and I'm gonna have to find all the old games, or I'm gonna have to hope somebody has them somewhere in like a torrent or something I can download, and it's like it becomes a lot more difficult.
No idea how
Yeah.
hard I'm trying to figure out how to make a skin-rinky dinky dink joke.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's not working.
yeah.
Are you a fan of Apex Legends?
I am not.
I'll say yes for the bit. Yes, I'm absolutely a fan of
And-
Apex Legends, Paul.
And you may have been, if you're a fan of Apex Legends, been frustrated by a persistent bug that has been happening for the last little while since the last update.
So frustrated by this thing that I love having a bug in it.
That when you shoot grenades, it explodes and you die without the grenade actually exploding. Like the grenade just goes thunk and then you die as if you got hit by an explosion, but nothing happens with the grenade.
That's a hell of a bug. Yeah, wow.
You ever had that grenade just explode, but you still get to keep it? It's a very have your cake and eat it too situation, except not when you're holding it.
You can eat shit and have it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
So they've been working on. So they ran into this bug, or that they found that this bug existed after the patch was released, because
Turns out-
their internal bug testing did not find it, and after the patch was released, they started getting reports of it, and they still could not find it. Over and over, they worked all these different things. They could not make this happen reliably.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no.
Internally,
Yeah.
so that they could test it, right?
Oh, no.
Because that's the first step to fixing a bug is finding the bug.
Those are the worst kinds of bugs, the ones that you can't make happen
They're like
consistently.
intermittent.
Yeah.
This isn't a gamma ray situation, is it? This isn't like a bit flips because people are like,
No.
great. What happened?
So the deal is, for every frame. So the explanation here is, so for every frame, the server, every frame of gameplay, the server compiles a list of all the effects that need to play, sounds that need to play, explosions, particle effects, everything that
Okay.
needs to happen.
Okay, sure. I like to do
A
lists.
list, it compiles a list on every frame and then sends that out to everybody so that
You can all see the
so
same
everyone
thing.
is in sync.
Okay.
And apparently that list is 128 things long.
Okay.
Does it just run out of room for the explosion?
So so the issue was that they were running out of space on that list. Or is what they figured out the problem is that once more than 128 things were happening in effects were happening in a frame,
Right.
it would start dropping off the end of the list and things wouldn't be.
Oh, that makes so much sense, though.
But
yeah.
But the thing is, obviously they chose that 128 number because it was way high. Because this is not like things happening. This is specifically like special effects happening within somebody's view on front. Like
Right.
128 should have been way more than they needed.
Yeah, but that explains why
absolutely.
you wouldn't necessarily be able to replicate this every single time.
Right. And so they realized, so it was only happening in very high level games. So with lots of people playing at the same time. And so they actually they had to start creating artificial, so they started creating situations where they would get like they would generate like 50 bots to all start firing their guns at the same time.
Right.
And that was the only way they could replicate this problem.
'Cause
But
they
they're
need to
like,
push
that
the
never
limit.
happens in the game.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
is
yeah,
this
yeah.
happening?
Yeah.
So it turns out the solution, so it was a single line of code. So this happened more frequently in high level play because what happened, they introduced a new weapon called the Nemesis that has a particle effect on it that happens. And when you're firing the weapon, it overheats if you fire it for too long.
Right.
And the particle effects changes as it overheats.
And everyone has to be able to see those. So yeah.
And the problem they realized was that when it wasn't firing, the particle it had a thing on it being like, don't show the particle effect when you're not firing.
Okay.
But the thing that said don't show the particle effect when you're not firing itself was happening every frame. So every time, every frame, every person who had this gun had a particle effect happen, which was stop all the particle effects because he's not firing.
I mean, sometimes I write those things on my to-do list too. Don't do thing, which is really hard to tick off as done.
And then on top of that, it happened in high level play because if people were running the game at a higher frame rate, like if people are at a heavy, then it would happen more often and stuff. So anyway, they realized what that happened and they were able to fix it pretty easily. But it's one of those I do enjoy stories about.
That's a pretty interesting bug story. Yeah,
I'm glad when they share stuff like this, not just because it's like it's funny as hell to read, but it also becomes great little cautionary tales for the rest of the industry. Because you read a thing like this, you're like, oh yeah, oh that makes sense. I will take that into account when I am doing a thing on my end, on my game or whatever. Yeah.
And we're talking about like speedrunners and like the thing with levels not loading properly in Zelda because people are moving too fast.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, well. Yeah, we didn't take that into account. Whoops. Or maybe, at that point, you're like, we didn't take that into account. Maybe we don't care because the people are speedrunning and they're glitching or whatever. Right? It's fine. But other situations happen that it's like, okay, this is an extreme situation, but it does happen in a reasonable way.
It happens more often than we expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fascinating too because it also means that. Despite having that queue of 128, like maximum 128 things should be going on that's hosted server side. So depending on how much effects you have going on at any one time, and it's like nobody stopped to say, or maybe they did, but maybe the testing didn't catch it. Nobody stopped to say what would happen if this thing was constantly full. What would happen after that?
I mean, I think the idea was that it's like it's okay. If 128 things are all firing at the same time, dropping another thing off the top doesn't matter because you aren't going to notice it.
Well, that's the hope, right? Because you're like, well, if there's all these things going on, it's like, okay, cool. But if part of that is not just effects, it's also things like a bullet or it's something else.
And maybe things got, lighter down in the development line. Things got added to that queue that it wasn't originally intended for.
There's that too, yeah. Well, I mean, like you say, they introduced the Nemesis, and now you had things going on. It's like, that is a new wrinkle.
Yeah, but again, like if it didn't show every spark of fire, that's not necessarily a big deal. But a grenade not actually going off, and then you still exploding. Kind of I guess a deal, right?
The grenade landed and then it was like, hey, I should be exploding now, and the server's like, I don't got time to draw an explosion. But the damage still happened anyway.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things. So this is sort of related to the Zelda, but not actually about Zelda.
Oh yeah.
About the leak that happened with Zelda.
Okay.
Because of that, at least that's what people assume is the reason. Nintendo has lowered the boom on a couple of different fan projects.
Emulation one specifically.
Yeah.
Switch emulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a new game coming out that is also a time when they typically go after projects like this, especially if they become notable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, program called Lockpick, which is a tool that allowed you to get encryption keys from a Switch, so it could run officially licensed games on an emulator.
I feel like that's probably something they'd have gone after.
And it's the emulator itself where the people are like, okay, we are now in trouble because if we can't extract our keys in order to be able to run stuff in the emulator, like pull our proper keys out of a real Switch and put them into the emulator so we can actually run this stuff. They didn't develop the thing that extracts the keys. They're utilizing the thing that extracts the keys, which is a different project, to make their emulator work. But now they're like, I think we're stuck. I think we can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the the lockpick system itself has received the DMCA
Yes.
notice from Nintendo, and I think Skyline, which is the emulator it's an emulator for Android, has decided to that it's in their best interest to also. I don't know if they actually had any official thing, but they're like they saw the writing on the wall.
They like suspend or discontinue the project. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting too, because it basically means like people be like, "Oh, Nintendo dropping the hammer on emulators." It's like, well, that's not what happened here. An emulator didn't like they're suffering the fallout of it, but Nintendo went after the thing that was literally like, "This is a DMCA violation," and we can talk about the DMCA being a good or bad thing, obviously, for quite some time, but they did say you can't do this, and that's like I can understand that. And if the emulators are like, "Well, it doesn't really work for us anymore," it's like I don't know, man. Maybe you can do homebrew. Maybe that was the whole point of doing this, was to do homebrew. We've always kind of had the veil of it's always for homebrew, and it's like that's kind of what that's supposed to be for. But
say the risks associated with the potential legal case are too high for us to ignore. We cannot continue to do knowing that what we may be doing. Well, we can't continue knowing that we may be in violation of copyright law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because it sounds like they were like, whoa?
Yeah.
Emulation?
Well, I mean,
possibly in violation of copyright law?
A lot of people do things with the expectation that they might get a DMCA, and at that point they'll stop.
You get a cease and desist, and then you're like,
they'll do whatever. But given that Nintendo has, with what happened with Gary Bowser,
Team
and
Executor,
I think they basically took down a person's channel for playing like heavily modded games of the thing as well. Like it's gonna be one of those things where you see that news circulating, and you're gonna take the step back.
Yeah, I mean the framework they were working under is that extracting your keys using this lockpick program. It's your Switch. You're extracting your keys.
Yep.
And then you can use that to play games that you bought on your emulator.
Yes.
And they're like, we feel that
should be within the realm
of possibility. And there's a very good argument to be made that is certainly within the realm. But they're saying that the fact that Lockpick got taken down with extreme prejudice, shall we say, indicates that that is not what Nintendo feels, and they don't have the kind of resources necessary to actually contest that.
Yes.
So there it is.
Yeah. It's weird to me because I know that the whole thing, by and large, is like, this game cost us $90 plus tax, right? This is $100 for this game.
We live in Canada, as a reminder.
Yeah. So $100 for a game, and it's a lot of money, and having anybody, and people are like, what about kids who can't afford that? And I'm like, I don't want to hear that argument, right? Because let's not get into the whole thing. Kids don't have disposable income.
The target audience is disaffected
Australians,
business people. Yeah.
So, and that idea of
koala
like,
sorters.
So where do you come down on this, and how do you make a case? And I'm like, if you can buy a Switch at any time, then you're able to. Then you now have one half of the ability you need to play the game, and the other half is getting the game itself and playing it. And it's not like that's at this point, like as of in the year of our God 2023.
I think you mean Sonic's 30th anniversary.
Thank you. In Sonic's 30th anniversary, it's like you can do that still. It is possible to find a Switch. It is possible to buy a copy of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and you can do that kind of thing. And I'm zeroing in on a thing here. It's like, so, but I want to play it on Android, and I'm like, that sucks. You want to play it on Android. The game is not for Android. The game is for this system. Yeah, but I want to play it on Android. I'm like, okay, there is this level of you can't always get what you want, and it is. I have a hard time with that being the argument, being like, yes, but I want to be able to do it in this other way, and I'm like, but you're not being allowed to do it in this other way. And I love emulators for letting me play older games way easier than having to like get out my old Super Nintendo and find a way to hook it up and da-da-da-da-da. I love emulators for that kind of idea, and I hope that continues forever. I think that's fantastic. It just feels weirder to me when it's like, but also the solution exists today, and yes, it means you have to spend money, because I remember what it was like to be in college or be in high school and be like, I can't afford to rent all the games, I can't afford to buy all the games, but I sure can afford to download an emulator for free and download the ROMs for free and play all these games that I'm never going to otherwise have a chance to get at because they're from Japan, or I can't buy a copy because it's $600 and I can't afford it. I'm like, I understand what that feeling's like too, and that's a powerful feeling, and I hate to have to give that up also.
Yeah.
It's hard having to be nuanced about this.
Whether you agree with it or not, the reasonings they usually go after emulation is pirating.
Yeah.
But I think also when you have newer games coming out, like, because, you know, they've gone after people for modding Breath of the Wild and stuff, and there's arguments to be made whether or not you're allowed to do that and the like. But the reason, especially when you have a newer game coming out, that you go after a thing like that is generally in the idea that you don't want a consumer to be confused into thinking that that is what the game experience is like.
There's that too.
So if you put it on an emulator and it runs better, it's not a true thing of what the actual experience of the product is like.
Yeah.
Again, there are reasons to disagree with that, but those are typically the reasons why there's a push for stuff like that.
Yeah. But at least if you have a modded version of Breath of the Wild, then everybody can have abs, including Link, because when I was looking for Breath of the Wild abs, you would not believe the number of muscle suits that you can make Link wear in the game.
You were disappointed because you couldn't find
Sidon
abs on Sidon.
Yeah, and I thought for sure.
No, he doesn't have abs.
But there's so much fan art where he has
absolutely
incredible
there is.
abs. Fish are practically all muscle. Like they're like, you know, it's like that, and terriers are just like, they're just muscle and tiny bones, and it's like, yes,
yeah,
and they're delicious, and it's just
I don't know if they could give him abs. I mean, for one thing, Sidon was already pretty powerful when they showed him off in the game, but you've seen the character artwork for the new Ganon, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, everyone's so thirsty.
And we know that Cass has abs. We know it, but we can't see them through the feathers.
Well, he's got the instrument in front of his.
Yeah.
You can't hide from us. We know you've got abs.
Yep.
Don't pretend like you don't.
Yeah, like Matt Mercer is the English voice actor for Ganon.
Ganondorf, yeah.
Right, Ganondorf. Two different characters. I know this. And I think I saw a retweet of an article. I think it was Rolling Stone, but it might have been for something else, where it was like how he's bringing sexy back to Ganondorf or whatever. And he's like, that's kind of a weird headline, but okay.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Also, I feel like people who have played other Zelda games would argue that Ganondorf never lost the sexy.
I would agree too. People really like that.
I mean,
so.
I know
that'd
Ganon
be the main difference
and
between
Ganondorf are technically two different characters, but it's like Darien and Prince Darien, okay?
I mean, I feel like that might be the distinction. There's Ganon, who's, you know, big fat pig guy.
Yep.
And then Ganondorf is the sort of glow up.
He's like oh, but I'm a beautiful Gerudo.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
guess maybe this time I don't know if he is.
Like, if people get into it, the Ganon being the pig monster is more of a kind of a beast who has no thought, whereas Ganondorf's kind of more scary because he's more human and he's sneaky and he comes up with schemes and he does things.
I just always assumed that Ganondorf becoming Ganon was more of a thing of, I know the names are similar, so you're like, oh, well, because it's not really, not terribly bright naming idea, but that's what they did. And it's like, that process is of, it's like summoning something into yourself that transforms you into this other being.
Yeah.
And it's like getting isekai'd, people. You end up in like a dying 5-year-old's body and you're like, oh, they're still there, but my brain is here too, and now we're having a conversation.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to say yes so we can move on from that.
This is one of my analogies that hasn't quite gotten away from me yet, but it's on its way.
I'm not sure it technically works, but I'm not going to debate it.
Ah, yes, a Ganon who is currently a dwarf. I wish they just called him Dwarf. I might just start calling him Dwarf.
Maybe that's just his last name.
Yeah.
It's Ganondorf.
Ganondorf, yeah, of the New England dwarfs.
Yeah.
The Gerudo Desert dwarfs.
Here's so this story is only sort of peripherally video game related, but
Great.
It's sort of about video game, or sort of, so there's
Close enough.
about a new tabletop RPG
Okay.
coming out called Break.
I mean, the word game is in RPG, so it's
Yeah, yeah.
basically.
Break.
With 2 exclamation points. Break!
That's very anime.
Is it a sequel? You get 2 exclamation points when you get a sequel
Yeah.
usually.
It is
Yeah.
not, but it is in fact a anime tabletop RPG.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He's saying the developer of Break,
Yeah, what kind of break? Like a car brake or a?
Ronaldo Madrinien,
Maybe we'll hear.
is he's saying that he never he was a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, but it never was quite the aesthetic that he was interested in.
That's fair.
Somewhere along the way, didn't know about Big Eyes, Small Mouth.
And then so coming out,
No one's gonna play that Sailor Moon RPG with me ever.
This idea of here, let me
It's break, like
switch
the
over.
action of breaking a
Yo.
thing, not breaking your car
so
or
it's
bike.
got
For those of you who don't have cars.
all sorts of cool
Ooh.
anime type characters and anime type.
This is pretty.
Weapons
Stuff.
and monsters and equipment.
Yeah,
and-
yeah. Dog.
I mean, we've seen what happens if you bring anime into a more, like, into a different thing, and you get all of the Japanese alts of the Planeswalkers in Magic the Gathering, right? It's like we know that can be a valuable thing to do to revitalize interest in a brand. Or you get Junji Ito to show up to draw all your stuff, but
That's not an aesthetic I want to play in.
me neither.
No.
I appreciate the work he does, but that's far away from. That's the opposite end of where I want to go.
But it's
So-
still very swords and sorcery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, so the one part of this that I thought was really cool is one of the things. So he was inspired by Zelda and Final Fantasy and these kind of things,
Yeah, that shows.
anime and stuff. But he's saying also there is something called the Rules Cyclopedia,
Okay.
which was a early version of D&D released specifically for the Japanese market. And let me show. See, it's the 3-volume
Holy
thing. So
shit.
you've got the player's handbook, the DM guide, and the monster manual.
Right.
Oh, Blue Hair Protagonist. So this is Fire Emblem.
This is Fire Emblem, yeah.
You've got. I think this would be your DM guide, I guess.
Gurus Ikero Bete. God, I can barely read it because of my contact lenses. Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
And then you've got your monster manual.
Okay.
So
Stars.
so this, I think this would be like roughly around like AD&D times, as in like before second edition D&D. So
okay.
Okay. all right, all right.
real old school. He's saying I remember looking at that and being like, oh, perfect, that's what I want. And then it turned out it wasn't perfect because it was, as I was getting into it, I was like, I want a little more Secret of Mana here. Maybe a little more Link to the Past.
That's cool.
So yeah, we've got so there's some shots of the some beauty shots of the thing here. Lots
Yeah,
of
I mean that's
so
I
bright.
really do
Oh, I
kind of
like it.
dig the art style they've gone with on
This
this.
very much feels like all of these things would have been in the manual for Secret of Mana or Link
Whoa,
to the
here's a guy.
Past.
There's a cat boy.
There's
Yeah.
a cat boy.
I mean, anime. You gotta have at least one cat boy.
It's true. It's true. They know what they're doing. So anyway, Break is on its currently on its Kickstarter thing. Say digital copies are. It is also doing quite well.
That's great news.
Out of its $16,000 Canadian goal, or its $10,000 or 10,000 euros goal,
Right.
it's at 389,000. So, yay for that. 4 days left to go. So, if you're interested, get in on that.
That's pretty cool.
It's always weird to me these things too, though, right? Because I'm like, because we get a lot of source books from fans through mail time, and they go on our shelves, and they're very pretty, and I'm sure that they're amazing games and stuff.
We also get some that are just from from Wizards.
Yeah, we get Wizards. We're on a list, and Wizards sends us D&D source books all the time too.
We're on many lists.
We're on many lists, and I have a hard time with tabletop RPGs where it's like I really wanted this to be a beautiful like this idea of like, so I wanted to make this game and it has all this really great anime inspired art and bright colors and bright this and amazing this and that and all that kind of stuff, and I'm like, right. And when I sit down to play, I have a black and white character sheet that maybe has an illustration of my character on it, or maybe not. That I have some dice that maybe I bought one that have colors that I like in them, or maybe not. And then I have my friends, just people whose faces I know, who's sitting around not even
You're
like.
not a cat boy at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just, it's
You're just one of my
Yeah,
friends.
Paul, you're not
played
a cat boy.
a cat boy.
Yeah.
And you were not a cat boy, but I
know.
was fine. I was able to deal with that. I was okay with
Hey,
Much to my chagrin.
Beach,
Yes.
Beach, are you telling me you're not a necromancer?
it's so.
Are you not a necromancer?
I'm not a necromancer.
You're not a necromancer, huh?
No. And
Are you sure?
Yeah.
it's so hard for me to be like, I'm sitting at the table
Stupid video games ruin my imagination.
trying to picture stuff, but all I get is just like, because the visual thing is what I really like about when I see things like that. It's like I love the visual of it, but I have a hard time picturing it in my head the same way that I would picture it on the paper. That it's like, this is a beautiful anime thing, and it's all very Studio Ghibli, or it's all very this, and it's like, and when I play it, it's like I picture realistic settings in my head, places that I could actually probably stand. Things that look a lot more realistic than just kind of the more anime look of things. And I'm just like, oh, that's not really what I've ever wanted from
So
a
it's
lot
not
of this
that
stuff.
Beach doesn't have an imagination. He would just like somebody else's.
I would like.
Yeah, no. I understand. I'm just saying it's not like you can't picture things. You can't picture them in the style that you would like.
Yes.
And so you need a different one.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can picture Dune as an anime. That I can do. I've spent long enough imagining it in my head about what it would look like. It's
would be
1970s looking
It'd
kind
be
of
in
anime.
the style of like Captain Harlock.
Well, the reason I can do it though also is somebody did the poster from Dune, like Lynch's Dune, in an anime style for when it came out in Japan, and I'm like, I saw that and was like, I can see it all now. I can see how old it is. I can see all I'm doing is referencing like Future Boy Conan and a lot of other like apocalypse and like stuff from Nausicaa, and like I'm seeing all these things in my head. I'm like, yes, I get it.
I have seen advertisements and things for. I feel like this tech isn't really like totally the era yet, but like basically digital playmat things so that you can have your maps pop up and stuff, and you don't have to draw things and whatnot. I feel like at some point we're gonna hit that point where like Yu-Gi-Oh had the cards going down and the thing pops up.
Yeah.
Eventually, we could probably get there for our tabletop
Kind
RPGs.
of this AR
Or
feeling.
you wear the goggles, and then as you look around the table, all your friends like have changed into their
Oh
characters.
God, you have no idea how much I would love that, Paul.
Yeah, maybe we'll go the Den of Coil route.
Oh my
But you're
God.
still like, okay, and then I attack with my crossbow roll, but now you're like a cat doing it.
My God. Oh.
We'll
That
do it
would
all.
work
Well,
for
we
me.
can do it all in post.
Yeah.
It's fine.
We're not. Please don't promise that kind of level of technicality for future Dice Friends or
We
anything
have-
in post.
We know that there's a lot of other people who are doing stuff like that with caves and with like short throw projection and all that, and it's like, yes, we're not there yet. So, but yeah. Yeah.
And then finally, massive, huge news from Game Freaks, teaming up with Take-Two Interactive for a brand new non-Pokemon adventure called Project Bloom. It'll be bold and totally different.
Yeah. So, are you aware of the Gear program within Game Freak, Paul?
No.
So, Game Freak primarily works on Pokemon.
Very
They
lucrative.
have, I believe they call it Gear, where people who work within Game Freak can make pitches for games that they would like to make. And that is how we got Harmonite and
Pocket Card Jockey.
Pocket Card Jockey and Tempo the Elephant and other non-Pokemon related games that that are actually made by Game Freak.
And they were all like, and the
I
thing
think
is, they're
this
all
is one of
made
those.
they're all made internally to Game Freak, because it's like Game Freak makes these things that they do them themselves.
Yeah.
It's not we don't get into
But
like other.
the whole point is so that they can work on other stuff that isn't Pokemon.
And now this is with Take-Two Interactive, which means that this might be a much larger idea.
I think it's meant to be.
So,
We won't see this game
They-
for like
Ooh.
a while, but
oh wait, no, that's not
because
what
if
I
they're
want.
at the stage of
This is all we
showing
got.
here-
Okay.
This is literally the only piece of media that has been released.
Yeah, it's a piece of concept.
Little mushroom dude.
Oh, I just thought it was one of those straw hats.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah. I could.
yeah, maybe you're right. I thought I saw
I
a
like
thing.
where you went.
I thought saw a thing talking about that, describing it as mushroom.
I mean, maybe it is, right? Maybe it's they're wearing the hat, the mushroom cap,
Oh, okay.
as that kind of hat, as a traveler
That could
would.
be. We don't know anything. All we know is there's trees.
It seems to
And
be
we know how people
a
feel
guy
about Pokemon and
standing on in a thing.
Greens and yellows and browns.
Yeah. Could it be Toad Origins?
That seems a little weird
It's a new Captain Toad game, but it gets real dark.
without involving Nintendo. But okay, sure.
That would be amazing if just like for whatever reason, like Toad only Toad had like the copyright had expired, and so
Oh yeah, that's so weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of the jokes I've seen about this have basically been like, but Game Freak only makes Pokemon and they don't do that well and that kind of thing. Which, fair if you're angry at them for the state of Pokemon Violet and Scarlet. It was a buggy mess. But I'm always excited to see when they're like, we're doing a non-Pokemon thing.
yeah.
Because you don't really know what that could be or mean, and it could be a lot of things.
Yeah.
Also, I liked Harmonite. It was very good. We played it on Rhythm Cafe. There's VODs of that.
So anyway, something to look forward to possibly if
Maybe.
it ever actually becomes a thing and more than just a piece of concept art.
Yeah, I assume at this stage we're really not going to hear another thing about this game for like 3 years, maybe
Yeah, yeah.
longer.
I mean, Game Freak does make things other than Pokemon. I would guess that the team that's not making Pokemon is relatively small in comparison to the Pokemon team.
Probably.
So it might take a while before we see anything that comes out of that. Or maybe it's going to suddenly become a Pokemon game.
I mean, I'd be fine if they wanted to make another Pokemon Legends game. I quite like that one.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us on this ChillPoint. And if you haven't seen the episode of Checkpoint that we were talking about, you should check that out because it's super good and funny. And otherwise,
Enjoy your weekend.
yes, yeah.
It's all today after all.
Zelda, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's great to have on your second screen while you're playing Zelda, put some loading ready run content up there for, I don't know, loading times or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, you can find a bunch of it over at youtube.com/loadingreadyrun. If you like the magic stuff, that's youtube.com/LRRMTG. We've also got /LRRTT for tabletop related things, /LRVG if you want to like watch some unskippables and stuff while you're maybe in your own unskippable cutscenes. Who knows?
And if you enjoy all of those things, you can support us at the Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. But if you want to get some sweet merch as well, you can go to store.loadingreadyrun.com and pick up some merch.
Yay. All right. We will talk to all y'all later.
Bye.
And now